So let's begin by adopting a stable, comfortable, upright position, serviceable for meditation. So we think about keeping our feet flat and our back straight, torso open, hands in the lap, right over left, with the palms upturned and the thumbs gently touching. Our eyes are gently closed or slightly open, making sure we let in enough light to remain alert. Try to maintain an awareness of not slouching, not leaning. We also let go of any unnecessary tension or rigidity in the body, relaxing into a stable, comfortable, upright position, just allowing the body to fall into place. And begin to let go of attending to the outside world, allowing sights and sounds to be as they are without investigation. Constraining your awareness just to the body and mind. And begin to concentrate that awareness in the present by attending closely to the physical sensation of the air as it moves into and back out of the tip of the nostrils. Giving yourself the instruction to notice quickly when anything other than that one physical sensation is arising in the mind. And then without judgment or frustration to lift your awareness up from those distractions and to place it gently but firmly again and again on the breath. And then when the mind feels more calm, we'll generate a broad, altruistic motivation for our time, trying to intentionally expand the scope of our motivation to embrace countless sentient beings within the field of our practice, by thinking that there's no difference between oneself and others. From the moment I wake up to the moment I go to sleep, I only want to be happy. I only want to be free of suffering. Even in my dreams, I wish only for pleasantness. I think there's no difference between myself and any other sentient being in this regard. There are no sentient beings that are not similarly motivated, but every sentient being is also meeting with difficulties and obstacles. There are no sentient beings that are genuinely perfectly happy, completely free of suffering. So, given that that is the existential condition of all sentient beings and not just myself, I should not use this life only to secure my own interests, my own welfare. I should direct myself to the welfare of all sentient beings, trying to lead every sentient being into a state beyond suffering, a state of perfect happiness, helping them to fulfill their aspirations. And in order to do that, I must myself transform my mind. I must overcome the habit of self-centered thought. I must learn to cherish other sentient beings. And so I must transform the content of my mind. So we take that as the purpose of our time. And yesterday, when Geshe-la mentioned that experiencing suffering can spur on a sense of disenchantment, renunciation, to give us the fuel for our practice, I was reminded of the Four Noble Truths. I thought we would briefly try to review the Four Noble Truths by thinking of the first, the suffering, the three types of suffering that the Buddha taught: the suffering, the suffering of change, and all pervasive suffering. So when we think of the suffering of suffering, in this category, we have every overt kind of unwished for, unwanted condition, any physical or mental overt pain, being separated from what one desires, not getting what one desires, sickness, aging, death, and even just the ordinary aches and pains of the body, being hungry, being cold. So think in your own life how you've never really been separated for even a moment from the suffering of suffering. Just even small inconveniences, difficulties, how pervasive they are. Think how the nature of the body is change, how that change past a certain point is a degenerating change. The body works less and less well. And then look into the mind. Bring to mind past experiences of loneliness, depression, grief, anxiety, frustration, jealousy, anger, and recognize that rarely do even a few minutes pass without some degree of some of these emotional states. And think of people in your life, your friends, relatives. Think of what they are experiencing right now. Some are experiencing the suffering of old age, the suffering of illness. Some are experiencing loneliness, dissatisfaction. And think of people you don't know, those affected by war, oppression, extreme hunger, thirst, poverty. And then on a more subtle level, ourselves and others are experiencing the suffering of change. And unlike the overt, unwanted physical or mental experiences that comprise suffering, the suffering of change is comprised by actions, activities, objects that we ourselves would label as enjoyable, as that which brings us happiness. But none of these experiences are fully satisfying. Bring to mind anything that you enjoy doing and think, how long does that enjoyment last? Are you simply left with the desire to repeat the experience again and again? And what would happen if you continued to engage in that one enjoyable activity without break? If it were in the nature of happiness, you would become more and more blissful. But instead, you become bored, agitated, even a state of physical or mental distress might arise. So look back over your life and try to become clear in your own mind that these objects of attachment completely lack the power to bring happiness. They themselves are not in the nature of happiness. And even more subtly is the arising of the suffering of all pervasive suffering. Simply having appropriated unenlightened, ordinary aggregates, being under the influence of karma and delusion. I think that as long as the mind is influenced in every moment by the afflicted states, then this true, permanent, lasting happiness that we seek is inevitably impossible. Geshe-la mentioned yesterday that we often think that if we could get rid of all of the other people, the cause of our problems, then we would be happy. But if it was just us, and the moon and the stars and the planets, Geshe-la said we'd still be miserable because we bring our own mind with us. And that mind is still under the influence of negative karma and delusion. So I think ultimately, although this is the condition I find myself in, the Buddha taught all of the noble truths: the truth of suffering, the truth of the origin of suffering, the truth of the cessation of suffering, and the truth of the path that leads to the cessation of suffering. And so I can devote myself to unlocking my potential, to uncovering the real nature, the ultimate nature of reality, freeing myself, and then using that state to lead all other sentient beings into that same state, by understanding that the origin of that dissatisfaction is delusion and karma, and that there is a path of training that can completely separate my mind from these afflicted states, that the afflicted states are arising with my mind, but they are not one with the mind. They are not in the same nature as the mind. So ultimately, it's a very hopeful message, one in which all that we seek and all that others seek is possible. So try to generate that sense of optimism a sense of resolve to use this life skillfully, to overcome suffering for oneself and for others. Then, when you're ready, we'll come back together and we'll dedicate. So, recollect your altruistic motivation and think that by having engaged in this contemplation, you've actualized that motivation, which has generated positive energy in your mind, and think that you freely offer the fruit of your practice, that positive energy, for the benefit of all sentient beings without exception. Thinking strongly, when this positive energy ripens, may it serve as a cause and condition to eliminate war and conflict, poverty, famine, disease, disasters, all painful inner and outer conditions. May it fully ripen the minds of all sentient beings, and quickly meet perfect teachers, and may they quickly meet perfect teachers and arise in a state of full enlightenment. May I too achieve the state of enlightenment, so that I might work for the benefit of all sentient beings without exception. May any obstacles facing the Guru's long life be completely dispelled, and may I and all sentient beings in this moment come under the joyful care and guidance of enlightened beings. May we be guided and protected until we swiftly achieve that state of enlightenment. Thank you,
Thank you, Venerable.
everybody.